Hey folks, this is Rhykker, and today we're going to react to Asmongold's video, The Real Reason I Quit Diablo 4. I don't normally do react content, but Asmongold's an important figure in the gaming scene, and I feel that he's probably going to parallel a number of thoughts and sentiments shared by a number of you folks. I'm given to understand a number of people are quitting the game, so we'll see here. Do you folks agree with Zach here? Are you quitting for the same reasons he is? Do you feel you're being led down a path where you're going to end up quitting because of what he's saying? We'll watch and react to this together. My first response, though, is I'm sad that Zach is quitting Diablo 4, and I'm sad to see people quitting in general. But let's go ahead and have a listen.
Basically, a lot of people, I guess I could like type it out. The reason why I stopped playing the game is because I don't think the mechanics for the game are that great. Like, it's not about like them being hard or not. So like, there's two.
We're talking mechanics. I think he's gonna be referring to the gameplay mechanics, which I find interesting because I feel like the gameplay, the combat of Diablo 4 is really tight. But let's see what he says.
Two spectrums, right? And I guess like, so I'll try to explain it, and if I can't, then it is what it is. This is how I see games. Okay, I guess I'll just put it right here on like two spectrums, right? Is you've got hard,
it's gonna be casual
and
versus
then
hard.
Easy.
Okay.
And then you have unfun.
Okay.
And then fun. So these are two different lines. So
figuring out how to add difficulty to a game that is in a fun way, that's a challenge. It's easy to make a game difficult. It's difficult to make a difficult game fun.
So if something is really hard, that doesn't make it fun. And if
True.
something is really easy, that also doesn't make it fun.
True.
There are things that they exist beyond that. So like, for example, how can I give a good example for this? The Diablo 3. I would say it's a pretty easy game. It's not very fun.
Well, I guess that's the issue. Fun is entirely subjective. For a lot of people, the easy gameplay of D3, of just obliterating screens of demons, that's fun for them. Easy and hard are not subjective. Fun and unfun, though, can be. Now, there's certain parameters within what we would classify as fun that we can probably universally agree on. But when people are seeking different experiences in their games, what's fun or not fun for them tends to be very personal.
Something like I Want to Be the Bashi is a very hard game, but it's not very fun either. There's a game like Final Fantasy 16. It's very easy, but it's also very fun. Something like Sekiro, it's very...
I hope he can elaborate. So I don't know Final Fantasy 16 very well. So if either he will or someone can elaborate on, with it being easy, what makes it fun, that would be good data.
Hard, but it's also very fun. So a lot of games are like, they're challenging, but they're fulfilling whenever you overcome the challenge.
That's a good way of defining that. When the challenge, it feels good to overcome the challenge, yeah.
And I think that the reason why a game is fulfilling whenever you overcome a challenge, there's a couple of reasons, but for me personally, the biggest type of fulfillment that I get in a game is whenever I'm able to express my skill in the game in a way that I feel allows me to master the content. And what I mean by that is that like there's not like a gear check, there's not like you know how like Moog, for example,
I hate gear checks.
Like, unless you have like the physic, right, he just kills you, right, with the transition. Well, I don't like difficulty like that. I think that stuff is garbage. So what I really enjoy is whenever I can outplay the game, to an extent that I feel like being a good player has made me able to achieve something that I was not naturally able to achieve, right?
Right.
So whenever I play Diablo 4, I feel like a lot of things are kind of out of my control. And what do I mean by that is that, for example, like getting off-screened by attacks. I don't think this should happen. Like, it doesn't matter how much damage the attack does. If it does 1 damage or 1 trillion damage, it doesn't really matter to me.
It's funny because I feel that a lot of Diablo 4's mechanics are well telegraphed, but there certainly are some that are I'm going to call them BS deaths. Things hitting you from off screen. I wonder and speculate, is it possible that there was some point in development in which the camera was more zoomed out and these things killing you off screen were not off screen at the time, and now we're more zoomed in and now they are off screen?
I still think it's bad design. And like, that's part of the, again, that is the unfun and hard category, right? Now, you want to hear about something that's easy and unfun. Farming renown.
Okay,
so
fair. True.
Like, I want to kind of explain, like, where I'm coming from.
The thing is, though, so easy, yes. Unfun, for most people, yes. I guess it's fair to say that, gosh, it's hard because the specific elements within what you're doing to get the renown can be fun for some people, can be fun for many people. But I think it's when you categorize it under the umbrella of needing to do these things in order to maximize your efficiency at the game, that's what makes it unfun for a large number of people.
With this kind of stuff. Sheer amount of CC, yeah. So whenever I do a dungeon and then I get hit by make a fair and unfair to make a trifecta of design, yeah, sure. Fair and unfair matter. Whenever I get hit by an attack that I can't outplay, like, there's no, like, how do you outplay something that just is targeted directly onto your character and then instantly kills you?
You outplay it by, depending on your class and your build, if you have something that rends you immune, basically. That's the only outplay that you have, right? So on a Necromancer, you pop your Blood Mist when you know that's coming in. That's only if that thing is telegraphed, right? If it's not telegraphed, then you have no agency. But Necromancer has the Blood Mist to pop into to make himself immune. Not every class has equal access to these tools is part of the problem.
Well, the way that you outplay that is you get better gear, right? That's how you do it. But I just feel like that's not a very fun way to play the game, right?
One thing I do have to concede. The fundamental design of RPGs does always have at some point a gear check, as much as I don't enjoy gear checks as some kind of parameter. I mean, at the end of the day, like, you can't expect a level 1 character to be able to beat all the content in the game just based on pure skill. You could make a game that way, but that's not how these games are generally made. So there tends to be gear checks built in to some extent, and with skill or a good build or good decisions, you could lower the bar on the gear check. Like, you can, with less gear, you can get further. But at the end of the day, these are games designed such that with sufficient gear, you can brute force your way through, right? By that, I mean, take two players. One is super skilled, super knowledgeable about the game, and has, like, trash tier gear. And then you have someone else who's terrible at the game, but they have 1,000 hours a day in order to farm up everything, and so they just have the best gear possible, but garbage tier gameplay. At some point, right, you can farm up enough gear to just survive the content. Like, that's just a thing that's generally built into these ARPGs. So it comes down to your skill matters in, I can get there before you because you need the top tier gear and I can do it in garbage gear. That tends to be where we see the line drawn in ARPGs and arguably RPGs in general, but it's your build choices, your skill. These are what determine your ease through which you can progress with the content, or with how little time. Ease is probably the wrong word to use here when we're clearly defining easy and hard, but we'll keep going.
It's not an enjoyable way to play the game. It's not like, I don't feel like I have achieved anything whenever I do that, because the gear that I obtained was not obtained through any level of, like, skill or any level of understanding of the game. Like, I didn't...
That's ARPGs, though! That's just the genre. I mean, it's been that way, right? That's how it was in all ARPGs. Like, the gear, most of the gear that you get, you could just farm easy content until you get it.
Earn this gear. I just simply, this gear simply occurred, right? And whenever I play through a game and there's enough mechanics like that, it separates my sense of fulfillment whenever I achieve something in the game from the game itself. So what I mean by that is that I don't feel fulfillment whenever I play a game that I just have, like, I don't feel good whenever I autoplay the Simulated Universe level 7 or whatever in Honkai Star Rail, or I autoplay an Echo of War, because I spent money on the game and my characters are really good, right? Like, there's no achievement there. Whereas, like, whenever
I'll say that the pinnacle challenges in games like D4 and PoE, Path of Exile for that matter, right? I think those are the things that it's not expected that the average player can achieve with sufficient time invested. But like in general, like ARPGs, it's, you know, like it or not, it's a fundamental of the genre that with enough time invested into just doing easy stuff, you generally are able to brute force your way through the content. With the asterisk being, that's when you add pinnacle content that really separates out people with actual skill. PoE does an excellent job of adding this content. They've added it over time. I think right now Diablo just has Uber Lilith. I guess now, arguably, they have the Uber Varshan. Hopefully we'll see more of that pinnacle content added to the game. Because outside of that, like Nightmare Dungeons, just like Greater Rifts in D3, I mean, it's just the same content with numbers dialed up, right? Like, there's no fundamental difference between a Greater Rift 70 and a Greater Rift 150, in the same way that there's no fundamental difference between a Nightmare Dungeon 1 and a Nightmare Dungeon 25, 30, 40, whatever. The numbers are just dialed up. Sorry, okay, that's not true. There is a difference. Once you get to Nightmare Dungeon 20, then there's no difference.
I have a very good character in Dark Souls and I'm able to beat a boss in a certain way, it's because I have achieved mastery over that boss through knowledge.
Yes.
I think with Diablo 4, there are a lot of things that you can't really achieve mastery over the game with. And these are like kind of intricacies of the design. Things like getting hit by attacks that were off screen. Things that auto-aim directly onto your character and then just instantly kill you. Like, there's no real way I can outplay this. There's no way that I can do better with this. Like, it's so like there were a lot of people that were saying like, oh well, you know, you're under level, so it makes, like, of course it's hard for you to do the capstone dungeon, which is true, definitely true. However, I did it at an even lower level on a barbarian. And how many of you guys in season 1 for Diablo, how many of you guys cleared the capstone dungeon at under level 60?
Sure.
It's always true. Too much power is boring. Pit 1 is boring. Yeah, right. So, like, lots of people have done this. So it's not like it's impossible to do. I agree. I just don't understand why people keep making excuses for bad game design. Because people take pride in their accomplishment. And if you explain that their accomplishment is just an outcome of simply beating a number generator, then the accomplishment doesn't matter. Which is true. Like, I think that Uber Lilith is an accomplishment to beat in Diablo 4. Yeah, it is. But the way that, like, 99% of people beat Uber Lilith isn't challenging, and it's not skillful. They play a broken build, they one-phase her in a second,
right.
They don't do any mechanics, and they just kill the boss, right? So, and I think that to an extent, that is something that you've learned this and you've put it together, and so, like, you've...
In fairness, that's not the design intent of the devs. They try to nerf those builds. But, yeah, point taken.
Earned that achievement. So I can understand why people think it's okay, but the difference is that even if you're not able to do that, you can still outskill the boss.
Yeah.
Like, an insanely good player can beat Uber Lilith without a lot of gear.
That's what I love to see. That's what I love to see.
But a really, really bad player can still beat Uber Lilith if they have ridiculous gear or a ridiculous build. And I would say that is, in general, kind of good design.
I agree.
And that's the kind of design that I want to see in games.
I agree.
The design that I don't like seeing in games is whenever there are things that the player can't realistically avoid.
Yeah.
And there are just, like, hard checks that happen. And I think...
It's funny because... I mean, I guess it comes down to personal lived experiences. I feel in general, D4 does a good job telegraphing a lot of stuff. But yeah, there definitely are BS death mechanisms. I think that's feedback that could be put forth to the devs to alleviate. I think they already said from the campfire chat that they are looking at avoiding, or they're looking at removing some of those, right? They said that in the campfire chat last week. So the number of, like, you know, after death explosions and all that kind of stuff. I
think that with Diablo, it feels a lot worse because in Diablo, like, the game is incomplete. So whenever I get killed by something that's frost damage, like I did in this clip, the first thing that I think of is that I'm having my time wasted by Blizzard because they can't be bothered to balance resistances. Resistances are broken in the game, and that's why, like, how many of you guys in Diablo, like...
So what he says is true. Resistances are broken right now. I don't think it's a matter of they can't be bothered. I think they probably did not realize that they were broken until it was brought to light by the community. And now it's that they just realistically can't fix it for Season 1. It's not that they can't be bothered to, it's just with their pipeline. Season 1 was already done. I don't even know if they can get it in for Season 2 just because of the amount of systems that are going to be touched by an overhaul to the resistance system. So yeah, I don't think it's out of lack of care or malice. I do feel it's an issue that shouldn't have launched with the game, but there's definitely things that need to be fixed.
You'll be going along doing just fine, having no problem with anything, and then you'll get killed by some sort of magic attack in the game. Like whether this is added shadow damage in nightmare dungeons, whether this is lightning damage, whether it's frost damage, etc., right? And why does this happen? It doesn't happen because the game is designed that way. It happens because...
Quick note on the resistance system. I actually prefer the way other ARPGs do resistances over D4 and D3's way. Like Diablo 2, Path of Exile, Last Epoch, like all these other games, right? You build up your resistance. It's all very intuitive. Generally, they cap you at like 75 resist. And you play this like gear balance game where it's like, okay, I need to get... I need to achieve 75 resist. In general, like the strategy is you got to cap your resistances. So it introduces this great aspect to itemization where it's like, okay, I need to have certain slots where I'm going to be balancing out my resists. Okay, on my gloves, I'm going to get fire resist. On my belt, I'm going to get like 2 resists there.
Resistances are bugged, and you're not able to effectively gear against magic damage. Unless you get a lot of armor, which is like the only solution. So what's the... What's... Like, so, like, I have this happen, and it's like, I think to myself, I'm playing a game that's broken, that, like, they can't even, like, why are you so zoomed in the game, for example? Like, what is the value of this? Is this making my experience better? No, I think, in fact, it makes it worse. I could go in and beat the capstone dungeon. It would be easy. I would just have to change my build,
sure,
get more health, and then go back and do it again. It's not hard to do. Like, and again, like, if I went and I did that, am I really beating the game? After I do all that, do I feel like a winner? No. No.
Wait, why? Do you not feel that an important part and rewarding part of playing ARPGs is coming up with a good build? Because there's skill, right? I differentiate skill being mechanics, you clicking buttons at the right time, noticing what to react to, reacting with your reaction speed is on point, your aim is on point. That's skill in my definition. And then knowledge is a different thing. And strategy is its own thing as well. But an important part of RPGs is supposed to be the build that you come up with, right? Like, how well you do in an RPG should come down to skill being one section, but you can't just have skill. You also need to have a good build. So being rewarded for coming up with the right build combination should feel rewarding. The issue is in modern gaming, asterisk, I'm sure you're different, viewer listening right now, and you come up with all your own builds, and congratulations, and that's awesome. But the average player, probably just looks up a build and follows that, and so we do skip that fulfillment, right? Instead of discovering the combination that is going to get us through the capstone dungeon, we go YouTube, maxroll.gg, give me the guide, and then it's just not fulfilling. Now it's just I'm following instructions, and I completed the game. And I say this as someone who built a channel creating guides on how to make builds and whatever. So I'm fully aware that, yes, I am part of the problem. But this is where modern gaming is.
Because I just beat a number. The number said 2000, and I'm 2005, and so I beat the number. No, the game's beating you. Yeah, exactly, right? So, like, why would I continue to do something that I feel like is fundamentally broken, has unfair mechanics, and I don't think is really fun to achieve those mechanics. Like, I like Diablo 4 in a lot of ways, but whenever you look at the nuts and bolts of the way that a lot of the game is designed, it's designed in an unfair and unfun way. And I think that whenever I go up against...
Do you folks agree that, like, a lot of the game is? I'm not gonna, like, there are aspects of the game for sure that are made that way. But do you guys get the same sense of the scale of that?
Something that, like, really kind of is hard. Like, Uber Lilith, comparatively, was much more enjoyable to progress on than doing even, like, a low-level dungeon. Because it's just the random mobs just have... just bullshit design. You can't beat the...
Yeah, I mean, so... That is a fair point, and I think that's why probably they're nerfing the Nightmare Dungeons, or they already have nerfed the Nightmare Dungeons. The pinnacle content, where you're supposed to really test your skill and everything, was meant to be Uber Lilith, and then Nightmare Dungeons are just kind of this thing where the numbers keep going up. And since it's just numbers going up, I mean, at some point, yeah, it just becomes a gear check.
Capstone? You just can't beat the capstone? Well, yeah, but what if I did, though? Right? What if I did beat the capstone? Would I be wrong that getting off-screened is... Like, I don't understand. I'm confused. Yeah, I don't get it. So, like, yeah, if I beat the capstone and I completed it, would I somehow be right about all of these things I'm saying to the people that think that I'm wrong? No. Like, these are just objectively true.
Just, yeah. I get what he's saying, but, like, so in theory... At what level should you be able to beat the capstone just based on skill? And again, this is where it comes down to some degree, it's a gear check, and it has to be. I mean, we can't say, well, I should be able to beat it at level 1 if I'm skilled enough. I think we can all agree that's not the case. So what is the minimum level at which skill should be able to beat the capstone? Or is it level 1? Maybe it is. In which case, this is just not the genre, right? I guess you can argue in a game like Dark Souls, yeah, probably with a level 1 character, given enough time and effort, you could probably beat the whole game. I don't know. But this is inherently a gear-focused game, right? Like the ARPG genre is inherently loot pinata game. It's a loot-driven game. Loot always remains a core part of your power. Loot and level and build, to clarify.
Like, if I get killed by something that's not on my screen, that doesn't make me want to try harder.
Yeah. So again, everything about, like, the BS deaths, he's 100% right.
That just makes me want to stop playing. That's that simple.
That was very fair.
Like, I don't want to keep playing a game that I get off-screened on. And, like, again, like, it's not, like...
It's not fun to die when there's no counterplay, 100%.
It's super hard or anything like that, but...
It's not even not just fun, it's frustrating. And it creates a negative experience, and yeah, absolutely.
I think that, like, at that moment, I realized, you know, you have a situation where you're like, what am I doing with my life? You know what I mean? Yeah.
So when I first did the capstones at Blizzard HQ, I was, like, underleveled, and it was really challenging. The things that I was getting one-shot from, though, were things that were being telegraphed. I'm trying to remember. I don't remember having BS deaths then in... I forgot which capstone it was. So, there's 2 different capstones. I do remember being one-shot, but I remember every time I was one-shot thinking, okay, I should have avoided that, and I could have avoided that if I had the knowledge. And in many ways, it's like, okay, now I know this boss's mechanic. I know what's going to happen when he does that. I can now dodge out of that one-shot.
Unfortunately, all builds in ARPGs aren't created equal. And this is what I said before about Diablo 4, right? As I said, I would play Season 1 until I started to hit a wall with a Necromancer summon build, and then I just don't want to play anymore. Like, I'll quit. And so I literally did that. Yeah, there you go. So I know that a lot of people brought up the fact that I was lower level.
On the topic of hitting a wall, so I mean, obviously, right, like, Zach's allowed to play the game however he wants. Fundamentally, if someone is not enjoying a game, like, the best thing to do is to stop playing, honestly. But I feel like hitting walls is, I mean, it's part of the game. You play until you hit a wall, and then you try to overcome that wall. And then, hopefully, overcoming that wall is an enjoyable thing, but if you never hit a wall, then the game's just not challenging enough, right? If you're able to literally just proceed until you complete every aspect of the game. Maybe we have different definitions of walls, I guess. But ultimately, again, everyone's allowed to enjoy a game however they want.
To be honest, if I was higher level, I would have completed it, and I'd probably still be playing the game. You're definitely right. And that would not make anything I'm saying right now wrong. That's the truth.
True. Yep.
So you just raged?
That's true.
Well, yeah, I got mad because I didn't like the fact that I was dying to something that I thought was unfair.
As a point of comparison, right? So when I came away from BlizzCon, when I came away from Blizzard HQ, having played like some characters that were relatively underleveled for the content that I was doing, I came away with the thought that, oh, like this, this is a challenging game. And it turns out when you are leveled for the content, a lot of that challenge goes away, which is in some ways sad because the ease with which you can just out-level the content and therefore brute force your way through, because a lot of the content is designed in such a way that if you are somewhat struggling through as opposed to just obliterating it, right? There's a lot of mechanics and stuff that are interesting to engage with and counterplay with, right? Put aside the BS stuff, a lot of the core mechanics of the monsters, it's stuff that you need to dodge out of the way, you need to react to, you need to pop your cooldown powers. But with the right build or just being leveled enough, you can just get to a point where you're not really punished for playing mindlessly. And the genre of game always just moves us towards, well, grind the most efficient thing, and the most efficient thing is when you are not struggling, and therefore engaging with the most interesting mechanics, and you're just, plowing through everything quickly.
You didn't even try to kite? Well, how could I kite something that could hit me off the screen? So I'm supposed to kite it off the screen? Like, what? What is this?
I don't understand why people are trying to convince him that he was playing wrong, like thinking like, oh, yeah, you're right, I like the game now.
What are we doing here? Because, like, whenever there have been a lot of problems, like, for every game, this is kind of like this is the way that I look at games a lot of times. I look at it as like a category of positives and negatives, right? And whenever I feel like the negatives are too high, I just, I give up, right? Because I don't want to play anymore, right? It's not fun anymore. And so it feels like artificial difficulty. Yeah, it does. Like, I don't feel like, basically, it was a situation where I was getting killed by something that I didn't think that I should be getting killed by. And then I knew that if I got better gear and I beat it, I would keep playing the game. But to what end?
That's a fair point. So, again, when I was struggle busting my way through the capstone, I basically refused to go and farm up more levels and more gear. I was very stubborn about it. Because I knew, yeah, like, obviously, with more levels, eventually the content becomes obsolete. Like, at some point, you can just brute force your way with power, with gear and levels, and the content becomes easy. But I was stubbornly chasing that rewarding feeling of having defeated the capstone because I improved my gameplay and I learned the boss mechanics and stuff. It's interesting that we've had a very different experience in that regard, because I did not feel like I had BS mechanics to really contend with back then.
To what point? Like, why am I doing this? I'm not achieving any greater level of understanding of the game. I'm not getting better at the game. I'm not doing anything that I haven't done before.
It's just time and rank, right? So, like, in Diablo 3, for instance, getting 2,000 Paragon, getting 4,000 Paragon, right? Like, you can double your character power easily, with enough time, right? You easily, in that the activity that you're doing is simple and not challenging, and it's just about how many hours a day you're willing to put into the game. And that's the kind of stuff that I'm like, I'm not very fond of that. I don't think that's engaging or rewarding content to just be like, okay, well, this person has 10 hours a day that they can play, and therefore they're 3 times stronger than my character, and therefore they can obsolete all the content in the game. That's why I like that there's a finite power cap in Diablo 4, as opposed to endlessly grinding Paragon, where you're just endlessly rewarded for time invested. Should your time invested count for something? Absolutely, but it shouldn't be the most important thing. Because I know I personally don't feel more accomplished when I achieve something in the game just because I've put a few more hours into it.
Because I already leveled to 100 before, So I'm just redoing the exact same content that I was already doing again on a worse class. It's just not fun. You think your skill cap? I think that getting killed by something off screen should not be an outcome. Like, it should not be an outcome that can happen.
This is fair.
Like, you just should not be able to get off-screened by something. Like, that's all there is to it. And you get off-screened all the time. And it's like, so you're getting off-screened by an ability that is negated by a stat that doesn't work. What the f***? What is it? What the f*** am I doing? Like, what am I doing with my life? Dealing with this shit, you're attacking it off-screen, you can't complain about attacking you back. Well, it would have attacked me either way. I mean, if I wasn't attacking it off-screen, it still would have done that. And you get off-screened all the time. Like, everybody here has been off-screened. Why are we pretending like that doesn't happen? Your build wasn't good? No, you're right. My build definitely wasn't good. And that's the thing, is that it would be very easy for me to just go to max roll and just make a build that works better, and that's it. And I beat it. But why? Why? It's just... What am I doing? What are you doing with your life doing this again? It's just crazy. I understand that a lot of people are unhappy that I stopped playing because of this. And, like, look.
Man's allowed to stop playing. Leave him alone. Jeez.
I have dealt with Blizzard gamers for 15 years. Blizzard gamers, one of the Blizzard gamer specials is to get killed by something that's frustrating, unfun, with no counterplay, and then to consider it skill whenever you find a way to either bug out the game or outgear it. It is pathetic. If these abilities did 1 damage, they would still be garbage. That's about it. It's fundamentally badly designed. Game just isn't for you? Well, no, I played it to 100.
So I think he has a good point. I think he's maybe being a little bit hyperbolic because he's just coming off a really, really rage-inducing gaming session. But there is a core of importance to what he's saying, and I do think the devs are looking to reduce/eliminate, again, these BS deaths. You can argue, why are they there to begin with? That's fair.
I liked the game, it was fine, but I beat it, and that's it. Yeah. Just over level, of course. Why didn't I think of that? Yeah, it's just so weird. And it's weird to see people that come up with excuses like that for the game that are like, well, this mechanic is really bad, but you didn't gain enough stat points to where the mechanic wouldn't affect you. Like, how is that a solution to a problem in the game? Like, there's bad design in the game, or at least in my mind there is, and the solution is to get enough stats to just make sure it doesn't matter. I think that's very boring. If you defend
I agree, yeah. Like, you don't want the counter to a game mechanic to be just get strong enough that you could ignore it, right? Like, ignoring a mechanic is the worst outcome for everyone. It's not what the designers want, and it's not what the players want.
I'm just saying you're focusing on 2 designs you don't like, Renown and Insta-Kills. I feel like those are, like, I mean, is that bad, though? Am I wrong? Like, I mean, Renown is huge. It's a huge factor of the game. It gives you, what, 4 or 5 Paragon points? And there's 5 zones, so it's like 20 Paragon levels. That's massive. So yeah, Renown is a huge thing, and then getting killed randomly, those are points of frustration. Yeah, I don't play.
So those are important points, but both of those are easily resolved. Like, Renown can be resolved literally in a second if the devs are willing to, right? It's not a fundamental issue with the core gameplay. It's some extra layer on top. They've already made changes in theory, right? They could announce tomorrow, hey, we're making this change to Renown. It's just gone. We give you everything. And that problem would be gone, right? Fixing resists is something they can't just do overnight. The reduction in BS deaths as well is something that can be worked towards and eventually resolved. I agree that they're in the game. I don't feel they're in the game quite as prevalently as Zach seems to feel, but both of these are fair reasons to stop playing. Never is it okay to be like, well, just, it only takes 2 hours to do the renown, just do it, right? Just suffer for 2 hours and then you can go back to having fun. This is recreation, right? Recreation should always be fun. If someone is forced to do something that they don't have fun, well, that's a problem. I've said this for years about MMOs, right? A lot of MMOs, people are like, oh, well, you got to get to the end game and then it becomes fun. No, a game should be fun from start to finish. Otherwise, just start me at the end game.
Does PoE have the same problem when you're focusing on it? No, PoE doesn't have this problem. It actually doesn't. There are very few things in PoE that you can't outskill. Like, I'm sure that there's probably a handful of them, but the majority of bosses and the majority of mechanics, there are...
Well, so for instance, right, you can't take a level 1 PoE character and do Shaper. So, again, it comes down to, like, well, what's the minimum level at which you should be able to do the capstone?
Ways that you can outskill them rather than just getting enough gear to where it doesn't matter if it hits you. So yeah, actually I don't think PoE is the same. Getting gibbed off stream is a thing in PoE. It is. Well, no, it does happen in PoE too, but it's bad in PoE as well. Gear-based game. Yeah, exactly. People have killed Uber Elder at level 33. I don't know about that. I never saw that, but maybe. I have no idea.
Okay, that's really interesting actually. Cool.
So yeah. I once killed the Hydra map mini-boss after 16 minutes of fighting. Yeah, there you go. PoE is all about outgearing the mobs. Well, yeah, you outgear the mobs so you don't have to outskill them, whereas in Diablo 4, you outgear the mobs so that they don't one-shot you. Does that make sense?
I mean, you're going to start getting one-shot by things in PoE if you don't have the right gear.
You can just gloss over the fact you're severely undergoing level for the content that killed you off-screen. Well, it doesn't, like... The point is that doesn't really matter, does it? Does it matter?
Yeah, if something's hitting you from off-screen, it doesn't matter. Yeah, I agree with that. But if it's something that you could conceivably dodge, or if it's just like a regular monster attack and you're getting one-shot by that, then, I mean, yeah, like, you do need gear, you do need something, some baseline level of something. Because again, at some point, you're going to be a level at which even a regular monster attack is going to one-shot you. Maybe this is about spike damage? That, like, maybe D4 has more spike damage than PoE? I do think there's something there with Diablo 4 where the average experience of the game is at a certain difficulty, and then you hit these crazy spikes where you're just sort of like cruising along, and then it's like all of a sudden, what the heck was that? So maybe raising that floor and lowering that ceiling to make it less of a big spike in difficulty, maybe that would resolve some of what he's talking about here.
Or like what your gear level is, or what your skill level is, or anything like that, if you're getting killed by something that you can't even see. I don't really think it does. It's a bad mechanic on a fundamental level. Even if it did 1 damage, it would be bad. Yeah, I don't understand why people don't get that. You wouldn't get killed?
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
You're right. Points the mechanic is stupid? Yes. It's just a stupid mechanic. I just... One-shot mechanic should always be well telegraphed.
Yes.
Well, I think everything like that should be well telegraphed, for sure.
Yeah.
Why are you talking sense to dumb people? Well, I just hope that people can see, like, because, I don't know, I feel like that kind of content isn't really fun to do, and it doesn't really feel good to overcome. Like, whenever I beat an Elden Ring boss, it's because I either have, like, very good build, which matters, sure, but, like, it's also because I probably figured out what to do and I dodged the attacks in the right way.
He's got to give an example from the ARPG genre, because part of what I'm hearing here is I just don't like ARPGs.
Like I did the thing.
Like an ARPG is a fundamentally loot-driven game. If you deprioritize loot to the point that you basically don't need loot to beat the game, like Elden Ring, Dark Souls, these are games where they have loot, but it's not the priority, right? The priority is the player's skill. That's like the #1 driving factor.
Whereas in Diablo 4, I feel like almost every solution to every problem is never get better at the game, it's just get better gear. And it's things like not being, like, it's like things like being zoomed in so much that you can't see anything else around you. Like, that happens to me, and like I feel like I'm being handicapped by it. And it's like, okay, what am I doing with my life? Yeah, what is this? So, yeah, that's kind of how I feel about it. Why you need to justify your opinion? Well, I just wanted to explain PoE was get better gear to beat the bosses. Yes. So let me explain it. Okay. So I understand that might be confusing for you. Maybe you never played PoE, so you don't get it. So basically, PoE, there's two ways that you can beat a boss. You can beat a boss by getting better at the game, or you can beat a boss by getting better gear. In Diablo 4, I don't really think that's the case in a lot of regards, because there's so much unavoidable damage and things that you can't counterplay. So that's what the difference is.
So, okay, this is fair. I think ultimately what it comes down to is not a binary 1 or 2, on or off. It's a spectrum. Because even in the case of PoE, right, like there's some minimum level at which you can't beat the boss, right? At level 1, you literally can't. Unless I'm wrong. Unless you can tell me a level 1 character literally can with enough time and skill. What I'm willing to guess is that PoE just balances it better with regards to how much you can or you need to lean on your build and your gear versus the skill. And maybe D4 goes a little bit too much towards deprioritizing skill and prioritizing gear and build. I'm assuming that's the main takeaway here. And that is something that is not so easily changed. You can design new bosses and new monsters that are better balanced in that regard. But to have to go in and like change existing gameplay, ooh.
That in PoE you have the option to play better, but in Diablo 4 you don't. And resist.
I'm gonna put an asterisk. Not literally you don't, but you just have less of an ability to do so.
Yes, resist is and the stats work too. And there are very few mechanics in PoE that off-screen you. Comparatively, right? I mean, like, whereas in Diablo, you get off-screened constantly. But in PoE, you don't. I think people don't care about it as much in Diablo, and so they don't talk about it as much because dying doesn't matter. This always says, the player that kills the boss, not the build. Sometimes it depends. But yeah, I just got a clear answer. People just disagree, just gaslighting you. Well, I was surprised that there were so many people that were trying to explain that I was a low level. And I think that the people that were trying to say that probably haven't played the game. Or like, it's like that's the easiest, like, oh, I see big number difference, that's what's wrong. Right? But like it's more than that. Don't stand near something dying, it's not that hard. Well, you're right. But like I just don't
I mean, okay, so yes, this is true, right? Because some monsters, when they die, they explode, and that explosion could kill you. And so you do have counterplay, right? The counterplay is don't stand near monsters after they die. The thing is, it's not fun gameplay, and this is in PoE as well, right? Other RPGs use the same trick. I don't know who at some point decided this was a fun gameplay mechanic, but yeah, monsters that explode when you kill them, not fun gameplay. Like these, I don't understand the reasoning for these revenge mechanics. Like, I've defeated the challenge, and it's just like almost that it feels like a mean dungeon master giving a final screw you.
Were the older Diablo games more skill-based and less gear-based? I think that Diablo 4 was more skill-based, yeah. At least as a demon hunter.
So he's talking about Diablo 3. He means Diablo 3.
I don't know. I mean,
case,
like,
no.
There were some things yes, some things no. It kind of depended.
Well, okay, sorry. Gear-based? Again, Paragon, right? It's the Paragon grind at the end. You literally just cannot do a GR whatever if you don't have enough Paragon. And you grind for 2 weeks and you get 2,000 Paragon or what have you, and now you can just obliterate that content. It's completely time and rank. That said, there is also skilled gameplay, but I don't know that it is different from D4. It still feels very samey, where, you can have two people with the same build, put them into a GR150, the same GR150, and one person might not have the skill or the knowledge to pull it off, and another one knows what to do, right? And he knows how to drive the car. You can give anyone a Lamborghini, but someone's going to drive that car and win that race versus someone who has no experience. But ultimately, if you're not driving that Lamborghini, you are not winning that race. I don't care who you are. You're not winning that race with a Volkswagen. That said, if he's referring to like the early days of D3, like pre-Reaper of Souls, when there was a finite limit to the difficulty, when it was like Inferno, that could be correct. Back then, gear kind of sucked for everyone. There was no Paragon, and yeah, Inferno was just a super hard wall of difficulty, and that's when your skill did matter. It mattered more, at least.
I think probably whenever you put everything together is probably about the same. Diablo 3? Yeah, Diablo 3.
About the same, that's fair. Yeah, okay. That's fair.
It's not that it's hard, it's counterintuitive. You kill it and there shouldn't be a threat anymore, then you die. I just don't like on-death effects.
Yeah.
Like, that's it. I just think they're stupid. I think they're cheap. I think they're a lame form of difficulty that doesn't make the game fun. And every time I die to one, I think the game sucks, not I suck. I never die to an on-death effect and think, oh man, I should have played better. No, it's just garbage. And also, you know, you think about the way that a lot of other NPCs are designed in other games. It's like, why is the difficulty in the game... Why is that the difficult factor? Like, for example, like in PoE, there's a lot of NPCs that do different things that you have to dodge. Like, for example, like there's the big snakes that attack you from like one direction. There's the Legion guys that throw the spears. There's a lot of things that you can easily see that are very well telegraphed.
Sure. And
you can easily see what's going to happen and then avoid it.
Yeah.
So, like, I'd say that the mobs in PoE are a lot harder, but at the same time, they're easier because they're better designed. I agree most
Wait, hold on. Is he saying PoE or D4? D4 has literally those same things. The snakes that shoot the stun ray, the goatmen who throw... Everything's very well telegraphed. Like, a lot of the basic attacks of most of the monsters are very well telegraphed.
Death effects hit harder than the mobs themselves. Yeah, wouldn't be an issue if every monster didn't seem to have a non-death effect on the upper levels. Well, you have, like, the poison, you have the fire... You have the mobs that...
I think it might be the distinction between the base attacks of many of these enemies and then, like, the modifiers slapped on top at higher difficulties, be it the, like, Nightmare Dungeon affix or even the... Probably more specifically, it's like the elite monster affixes. Maybe that's more of the issue here.
Explode the fat guys, and then you have the spider fat guys. So... There's like maybe 5 or 6 different mob types in the game. And 2 of those 5 of 6 mob types in the game have NPCs that explode whenever they die naturally. And then all of them have the chance to have a mob that explodes. Like, there's basically no way that you can do a dungeon and not have to deal with on-death effects. Why resistance is broken still? I don't know. Yeah, I have no idea. Do you think PoE is better designed with death effects for the most part, even if on-death still sucks? Well, PoE hardly has any on-death effects nowadays. Like, there are some of them, sure. But, like,
did they remove
Diablo
all of them?
4...
I mean, also in PoE, you're zooming through maps so fast that you're just... the monsters die and then you're gone by the time they do their on-death effect.
I would say, like, there's an on-death effect. Like, yeah, where... It still has plenty.
It does, but yeah, it's because you're zooming so fast in PoE that you're gone. You're just gone.
Name 3. Diablo 4 isn't bad. Quit malding. I don't understand why you would say that whenever every single person who's basically talked about the game has said that it was bad. That's why it's rated like a 0 almost on Metacritic.
I wouldn't go by Metacritic. Whether 10s or 0s, Metacritic ratings are a little,
It's because it's bad. Like, I'm...
Like, people could find reasons to be... Like, fan bases are notorious for getting butthurt over XYZ and, like, mass downvoting a game that could otherwise be good apart from, you know, a certain thing. I'm not saying in Diablo's case, one way or the other, but just pointing to a Metacritic rating in general is not the best argument.
I'm sorry, but, like, that's just... Like, it can be fun to play, and it's great if you're super casual, but if you play it seriously, it is just really not that good of a game. Rate it 8 out of 10? Yes, for a casual player, it is an 8 out of 10 game. But I'm saying, like, with the combat, the thing that really kills me in PoE is leveling to 100.
There's definitely issues that come to light more in this game when you're playing it at a certain level of play versus a casual level of play. I know one of those things is just that there's not enough content in the game right now for those people playing at that higher level of play. There's also issues like crowd control that become more prevalent at, you know, the higher in Nightmare Dungeons that you push, the higher the difficulty, the more these crowd control issues, which tie into the fundamental gameplay loop that he's talking about here, those become more prevalent.
I just don't want to waste my time playing something that I think is badly designed and unfair. I think that's really what it comes down to. Just making a constructed criticism video with all these affix issues.
Well, that's the thing, right? So a lot of the things that he listed are things that can be fixed. But let's see what he says.
I thought about doing that, but the problem is that the people that want to make excuses for the game are not open to hearing any level of feedback. So, like, I think most people agree with me, but, like, the developers that are making the game, like, they could have fixed this. Like, they could easily fix the off-screening issue, right? Because it's very clear, like, they know how many, like, yards or how many, like, meters in the game, like, the character screen is, right? Because, like, they design it to be that big. So all they would have to do is just change the distance that a mob can do an attack from. So, like, if the screen is this big and the mob can do an attack that's this big, you just change it to here.
Yep.
But they don't do it.
Well, but they could, right? I don't think this is like the devs being stubborn or anything. I think we've seen a tremendous ability for the devs to kind of walk back things more than I ever expected. And I'm not sure if it's always for the better, but like the devs will do XYZ, community complains, devs walk back something, or otherwise make rather rapid changes based on feedback. So I think if someone with as loud a voice and as big a platform as Asmongold is going to make a suggestion video, I mean, obviously he's always going to get a ton of, you know, horrible comments because that's just, it comes with the territory. But the devs will listen. Are they going to act on it? Not necessarily, but they're going to listen and they're going to hear his feedback. And if they can see that that feedback is echoed by a large amount of the community, that's even more reason for them to act on it. So
they want you to get off-screened. So it's just like, I think about how easy the solutions are.
Yeah, but they also wanted us to travel to Nightmare Dungeons on the horse, and that's not a thing anymore. So again, these are things that they could change. And you just outlined exactly how easily they could change it.
And it's just, it's ridiculous. Just reduce the aggro range, yeah. And also, like, if resistances don't work, why not just reduce the magic damage that NPCs do until the resistances do work? Like, look at what the average expected damage that you intended for players to take from resisted damage, and then just calculate that in as a base stat until you fix the game on a basic level.
That's one way that they can try to tackle it. That's one way they can try to tackle that.
Like, I don't see how this is so hard to do. It's crazy. It's because aggro range is based off extra screen-wide monitors? Maybe, yeah, I don't know. If anything, it taught us...
I think the issue with that solution is just, it still is a big undertaking. It hits upon a number of systems, and it's not like as simple as, well, just, you know, reduce the damage, because then, well, what if that makes XYZ easier? It's also that armor, right? Armor also applies to some degree against elemental damage. So now armor's becoming even better.
It's about their ability with numbers. Just remember the Uber Uniques Fest? Yeah, there you go. Look at poison damage, for example. It's ridiculous. Yeah. Like, why is poison damage still, like, insanely high? Like, it's insanely high in a way that is clearly, this is clearly not intended. For some strange one with Blizzard, with all of its egregious...
Poison damage is pretty high. I do feel often when I'm getting poison damage, I have to, like, pop several potions to not just outright bleed to, or poison to death.
So I just feel like the game, like, again, there are so many, like, really big fundamental problems with the game that I don't know why players accept it. I don't really think it,
I mean, ultimately, it just comes down to whether you're still having fun or not. It's not necessarily about accepting or not accepting, right? Like, you can not like something about a game, but if you're having fun regardless, if there's enough things in the game that you are enjoying, then, you know, if you just stop playing the game out of protest, it's not really going to do anything. But by the same token, right? Like, if you're not having fun, there's no reason to keep muscling through and powering through a game.
I don't think it's fair. And I don't know why people are okay with it. They're coping. Yeah, I don't know why people like it. It's like you're...
I think there's a distinction between defending something in the game that is bad or that you think is bad, and just like accepting it and continuing to play the game while still, like, you know, maybe voicing your opinion and your criticisms.
Just completely hand-waving garbage. I don't understand why leveling was nerfed so hard, so the game would take longer. That's why. Horse cooldown's the dumbest thing in game.
I don't think that's the case. Again, they expressed at the campfire chat that they're actually going to be now they found that people are taking too long to level 50 to 100, so they're going to reduce the XP curve there. They nerfed the game because just everyone was doing too much damage, and specifically Vulnerable was doing, you know, Vulnerable and Crit were doing too much damage, so they're trying to deprioritize that to prioritize the other things. This has the consequence of slowing down the game, but I don't believe that was their intent.
Am I crazy for just being like, hey man, can we just improve some of the things that are like obviously broken? Like, I'm not asking, good guys, I'm not asking. I'm not asking to remake the whole game. I'm just asking like a few little things that I think don't work that well.
Yeah, those are reasonable asks.
Like,
very reasonable
stop asks. Get rid of the things that just do damage to you with no counterplay. Just delete them. Get rid of them. Turn them into something else. Have them shoot.
I guess so. Here's the question: if they were to do that, let's say, you know, 2 weeks. They address that point, they address the on-death things, they address, like, the BS deaths. Does Asmongold come back to the game? Because those are all changes that I 100% could agree with.
Frostball. Have them do something that the player can express their skill in, and then avoid. I don't know, am I crazy? Like, if the resistances are broken, then hotfix the magic damage down.
I don't think that's as simple to do, but...
That way the game is playable. Like, what the fuck? I'm losing my fucking mind.
Maybe certain of the, like, Nightmare Dungeon effects or something that are dealing, like, elemental damage, maybe they can address on a case-by-case basis some of the things, and maybe that might actually resolve... Maybe that's what he means, in fact.
Those things are meant to kill glass cannon builds. Why? Why is it a problem that somebody plays a glass cannon build?
Because then there's no benefit to not making a glass cannon build, right? I mean, no one's rewarded for playing for making a tanky build if glass cannons aren't sometimes punished for being glass, right?
Like, and that's the entire mindset that's stupid. Because if you are a great player, you should be able to play a glass cannon build.
Oh, okay, yeah. As long as you can, to clarify, yes, as long as you can counterplay. So I love glass cannon builds, and my entire thing is, well, you take 0 damage if you're not hit, and that should be the play. Yeah, okay, I understand now what he means. Yeah, so I agree. On a glass cannon build, if you mess up, you should be punished with instant death, but not because the game decides screw you right now in particular.
And be fine. It's the same way that people in Dark Souls speedruns use the red tier crystal ring. Is because they're low health and they know that they can avoid the attacks. It's silly. Great players can play glass cannon builds though? No, you can't if you're getting killed by something that's off screen. I don't understand. And also, if you're saying that they designed it to kill glass cannon builds, and
one thing that we also see with regards to glass cannon builds in ARPGs, and like when they say great players can do it, the reason is, again, time invested. Sometimes, right? Obviously there's skill, but oftentimes it's just an acceptance of there's going to be X percentage of BS deaths. And so I'm going to just brute force it. And, you know, you keep rolling the die until you get that 20 where you're not hit by any BS deaths. And that's kind of an ARPG meta thing. Maybe not on all ARPGs or to some degree more than others. It's not a philosophy that I like or agree with, but I think that's when people say, well, you know, the pros can run glass cannon builds. It's like, yeah, well, they also die a lot, right? Because there's no strong penalty for dying, you're more rewarded for just brute forcing your way and sucking up the deaths.
and then you say that they can still play glass cannon builds, then didn't they fail? Doesn't that mean that it didn't work? How are... Jesus. I just feel like they've put in very minimal effort to fix obvious problems, and I find it to be annoying. I find it to be... It is very annoying to me, and it...
Is it that they've put in minimal effort, or is it that they've not been able to recognize these as being obvious problems? I guess that's the... There's two ways to interpret it, right?
It pisses me off, and it makes me mad. And the reason why I'm mad is because I think that the game could be a lot better, but the developers are putting in no effort. Developers don't care? No. Rise of the game's been out less than...
Yeah, I very much disagree that the devs don't care. I think we see that they do care, but I think a lot of these questions are like, why were these things in the game or designed this way? Why were they not caught before? Because again, we're seeing this rapid response to feedback in many cases. So it's like, okay, well, if you're able to make this change so fast, react to the feedback so fast, why wasn't this change made before people had to bring it up to you, kind of thing? And I don't think it's for lack of caring or lack of effort.
2 months? You're telling me that it takes 2 months to fix resistances?
No, it doesn't. But it's with their pipeline, and again, you can disagree with the strategy that they set up, but Season 2 is like already done, right? So if they were to implement a massive restructural change to the base game for next season, they would have to basically delay the season. So like, because their content pipeline, like Season 1 was already done way before pretty much any feedback could be acted upon. So then Season 2 is already well in development, so like, that's why generally Season 3 is when most of the changes can happen, because that gives them... that's just the content pipe. Because they've established a workflow that allows them to roll out these seasons continuously, that means that you have different teams already working on future seasons. It's not, we're all doing Season 1, okay, it's done, now let's all start working on Season 2. It's like, you got future seasons in development, and if you're going to implement a big change, that's going to affect all the teams and all the seasons. And if you're about to push out something, it could, it just... Again, this is a strategy that has its pros and its cons, and I think we're right now seeing the major cons to this strategy being, here's a major change that we want to happen, can't happen for multiple seasons.
2 months and a beta? And this is a multi-billion-dollar company that can't even figure out what's the word for it? They can't even figure out like a stopgap for this, like a bandage solution. 100%.
Stopgap bandage solution, that's reasonable to hope for. That's as well why the nerfs to Sorks like hurt so much with the latest patch, because it's like, okay, you're further nerfing their ability to get armor, and then you're buffing their ability to gain resist, but resists haven't been fixed yet, so it's not really helpful at the end of the day. It's almost like that patch was developed for when resists would be fixed. But yeah, having some temporary solution there, I personally don't think the fact that resists are broken is a problem with regards to enemy damage. I think it's more just sorcerers being a lot more challenging to build up defenses on, because everything is so focused on armor, and Sorks have basically no ability compared to other classes to build up armor. As a patchwork solution, I would just give Sorks ability to get armor.
Not dev's fault, but some project manager? I don't know whether it's a project manager or not. I have no idea. Yeah, I mean, I don't really care whose fault it is. I mean, I think the people that are programming the game, I think the people that are doing it are incompetent. I'm going to be honest. I think they're incompetent. There's no way that you can program something like loading every single stash tab for every single player in a city, and I'm going to say that this is a good decision. Any person that plays the game knows that's stupid. But
So what he's referring to is the... It has come out that the reason we can't just get more stash tabs very easily is because, and I'm going to paraphrase here, when you load in another player, you're loading in not just their stats, but like all their gear and everything in their stash as well. All their data is basically carried in one package. So the more stuff in the stash, the longer it takes to load in a character, therefore the more lag is caused. And I am 99% sure the reason this exists in Diablo 4 is because it's just old code carried over from Diablo 3, because we had this exact problem in Diablo 3. We had one season PTR where they gave us a bunch more stash tabs. Everyone loved it. It worked great on PTR where there's few people. Then we make it to live servers and everything is lagging. And people are like, why is the game suddenly laggy? And they find out, oh, it was all those stash tabs we gave you. Sorry, we got to dial that back to just one stash tab until we can figure out optimizations here to the system. I'm not a coder. I can't pretend to understand pros or cons towards why or why this was ever done this way. Something about database calls and the number of database calls and how expensive a database call is with regards to how taxing it is on a system. I don't know. But I can almost guarantee that the reason it's in D4 is because it's old code carried over from D3.
They decided to do it. The project manager probably didn't tell them that they had to do it that way, but they chose to do it that way in a way that makes the game lag when there's 12 people in a zone. That's insane. And also, like, if I'm wrong about that, then I guess I'm wrong. But there's somebody who's fucking competent. I don't know who it is. Someone in the dev team should have the questions with the stash tab requirement. Exactly. How do you even greenlight that idea? Yeah, it's insane.
How do you greenlight that idea? I think anyone who works in programming, what I've heard, anyone who works in like programming or coding, as you are developing solutions, sometimes you have to make something fast and it gets in and things just keep rolling. And something that was intended as a temporary and not quite the best solution ends up staying in the game all through to release, or the product or whatever. I'm sure we can have coders and programmers chime in here, where it's like, put it in, we'll fix it after, and then just after never comes, and then it's just such a core part of the underlying thing that it's like, okay, we know it's not perfect, right? It's spaghetti code, but it's not harming anyone right now. And then when you add more systems to the game, you realize, oh crap, that spaghetti code is now a problem. But now it's so deep under layers of everything else that it becomes very challenging to change.
Because, like, again, bro, I've been so pissed off about this for, like, days. Like, ever since they did, like, I'll be real. Like, this is a bit of a venting session for me. Because ever since they did that, campfire chat, I have lost nothing but faith for the game. I think everybody that's making excuses and saying how great it is, it's great that Blizzard is undoing the things that they obviously f***ed up. But
I'll add as well here, because I understand that this can be perceived a certain way. I think most of what any rebuttal I'm giving here is not excuses, or at least I hope it's not being painted as excuses, but explanations, just to give context to why something is a certain way, not a justification that it's good that it is this way, right? So for instance, like just the most recent example, it being code carried over from D3, that's not saying there's no problem here because of that. I'm just saying this is how it happened. Not that I agree with it or I think it's good. I'm just explaining, right? If a train crashes and someone says, well, you know, the track was tilted that way, of course it was going to crash. That's not saying, well, it's good that it crashed, or it's good that the track was crooked.
I'm just...
His frustration is understandable. His frustration is understandable.
The first 3 days, you said you were having fun, and I was. I think that if you're a casual ARPG fan and you like playing them, you'll probably have fun playing Diablo 4. Absolutely. Yes. Both of these things can be true. Yeah, anyway, I've talked about this for... It's been an hour, right? I've talked about this for an hour. As you guys can see, I'm pretty annoyed by this. I'm very agitated. And it's been... I'm just so pissed. I'm so pissed about the game. I'm pissed about the problems the game has. I'm pissed about the idea that it's going to take until multiple seasons in the future that we don't even have a release date for them to be fixed. I'm just, it's a joke. I can't believe it's even happening. You expected better from Lizard. That's on you, bro. I did. I expected that if something was wrong in the game, they would fix it. Oh, God.
All right, so this is actually not what I expected to be the reasons. But you can see he's obviously frustrated. And at the end of the day, I think that's probably something that a lot of people are feeling. It might not be for the same reasons exactly. I think to some degree, there's a whole Fruit of the Loom cornucopia, which it did exist. I don't Mandela me, that existed. There's a whole variety of things I think that have come together to bring people to a point of frustration. And I think some of the things that he highlighted here with regards, again, to the BS death mechanics and resist being broken and it taking a long time for these things to be fixed, these are all like very obvious things to call out as being problematic. And I think different people have different thresholds through which they're bothered by these things. I do encourage you folks to sound off in the comments with, if you've stopped playing D4, if you feel you're going to quit D4, is it for these same reasons, or what are your frustrations, what are your complaints, what are your issues with the game that you feel are stopping you from playing anymore? In my case, I am still enjoying myself. A lot of the things that Zach highlighted here, though, I do agree are problems that need to be fixed. I do agree are things that are not as fun as they could be. Is there some degree of hyperbole in some of the arguments? Maybe, but he's frustrated, so it's understandable. On my end, I feel that some of these systems that need to be changed. For instance, like the resists, like the vulnerable being way too strong. Some of these like bigger reworks that they have to do and rebalances and stuff. Some of it, my question comes down to not like why are they doing it? Like I do believe these are good things to be addressing, but more so, why wasn't this caught earlier at some point and addressed before release? Because now that it's being addressed after release, it's causing frustration, it's causing upset. Like, it would have been my hope that D4 releases and then all the seasons and the patches, they revolve around adding more content to the game, not having to rework some of the core game systems. Because a lot of these are things that cannot reasonably be achieved within a short amount of time. And so the longer it takes to implement these changes, the longer people are playing with a version of the game that is then going to change, and that's going to change their experience, and for some people that'll change that experience for the worse, even if it's better for the overall health of the game. Case in point, I expected that the reason most people would be saying they're quitting Diablo 4 now, which is what I'm seeing from a lot of YouTube comments, is people saying, well, I feel I'm weaker now, and that's not what I wanted, and there's not enough new stuff in the season to justify this, and so I'm uninstalling for now. But again, I turn the question to you folks. Sound off in the comments with your experience on why you are no longer or still playing Diablo 4. Thanks for watching. Special thanks to my Twitch, Patreon, and YouTube supporters for making these videos possible. If you enjoyed this video, please share it. Check out these other videos, and subscribe to join Rhykkers Raiders for more Diablo content.